Hello, I'm Lauren, and this is Improving the World. I am an international improviser based in Hong Kong, and I speak with amazing improv women all over the world. Today, I speak with Inbal Lori. She is an Israeli improviser based in Berlin, and she and I talk about the glass ceiling of improv and what that means. I hope you enjoy. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Inbal. Hello.
Hello, the
How are you
beautiful
doing?
Inbal. I like that. I'm good. How are you?
Good. We should always describe each other as adjective and then our name. You don't just get to
Yeah,
be your name. You should be like the bubbly, the sad,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
You are an actress, a writer, and an improviser. You do all of the things. Improv for you is very much a holistic kind of practice. You're combining acting and writing and directing, and you're mashing all of these things together to create something that's whole and or maybe that's fulfilling. Tell me about that. What does that mean for you, this mishmash of everything?
Because I do an improvisation as a profession, my main job is something that only happened in the last 5 years. And it built up through acting studies and then dramatic writing, then directing a little bit and writing my own material for many shows that I've done in Israel. So I think that it all accumulated into that, like, okay, I have enough skills to really enjoy improvisation because I can think about the dramaturgy or execute the performance in the best level that I want. So I can be the director, the writer, and the actress of the improv. I'm not saying I'm doing it perfect in any way. I'm not saying it always works and all those three things coexist amazingly. Sometimes, we leave off mistakes, but definitely these are three skills that serve me very well when I improvise and give me a lot of confidence too.
Interesting that we talk about this idea of directing for improv, because many times people who are not improvisers think that this is crazy, this idea of directing or even doing rehearsals, because inherently within the name improv, it means there's no planning and we're just making it up in the moment. But it sounds like there's more to it than that. What does directing mean for you in improv, and what are these other pieces? How do they fit together?
Basically, when we talk about directing, we're talking about developing a technique. So we're not profounding moments on stage like in theater, because that would be impossible. But we do need to have the right set of skills that when that moment comes, we can execute it in the best way. So we can have all the sets of tools. I like to think about it like a ninja. You have a lot of things that you could do, a lot of ways to fight, a lot of weapons. But which one do you draw at the exact right moment? I think this is the directing thing that we do. So like to know how to control the skill. For me, it's a lot like football or any kind of other sport. I just really like soccer. The team needs to know everything. They need to be prepared for any scenario that comes up. And they also decide what kind of format they're going to play. And they're very skilled at all the formats that they need to play with. But what happens in the game, nobody knows. It's complete improvisation, right? They have to go with their instincts and they have to draw the right weapon for the right moment, like instinctively. So I think that's it. But when I teach, I have to say, I've been known to be the micromanaging teacher. And some people hate it, but some people are really cool with that and love it. Sometimes if they improvise a moment, they're improvising a situation, my students, right? And, it's sloppy because they didn't really listen and they didn't really understand what's happening at the moment when it happened. And so it could have been a beautiful moment. And I just like, I make them do it 5 times, same line, and I make them go and repeat it until the moment is perfect. And so I take an improvised moment and I redirect it until I think it's really good. And okay, you can ask, so what's the benefit? And I think there's a lot of benefit because I think next time when it happens, they don't rush to get it over with, but they go like, hey, wait a minute, I'm having that moment again. I'm having an intimate moment with a partner on stage. I'm having an emotional moment for my character. I'm having a status change. So I can take my time. I need to be invested in any second of it, right? So it's like taking those moments, staging them, directing them, so people can then later on, when they re-encounter them in other improvisation, can go like, wait, I know, I've done that. I can bring some tools into that.
I feel like when we are children, there are no rules. And as we get older, we start to create all of these what if fears and rules, the lack of listening or whatever it is, because we've experienced the world and been told to shush and this is not okay, and building our brick walls, all of that. So improv in many ways is about peeling that back, taking the bricks down one by one. And I'm curious about for you in terms of teaching, do you equate improv to this sort of childhood and being childlike as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when people do corporate training or where they're beginners, I think that's what we do, right? We want to bring them back to that playfulness, the childish playfulness. Play, just fucking play, because nobody plays enough, right? In later on stages, and especially when you want to go on stage, and especially when you're going to take money and have people watch it and say, this is improv, then I think then we have a little bit more responsibility of it to be good. And by good, I mean, it should be a little bit more professional. And professional is like when you take something which is very raw and you have a talent or a tendency that you like that thing, right? And in the beginning, you always play with it and you discover it and you do whatever the fuck, you have a lot of fun. But then when you want to bring it to a more professional level, then discipline needs to come in, rules needs to come in, tools needs to come in. And then I think for a lot of improvisers is like, a lot of us are stuck for a long time in that period of like, I want to be this child with a lot of freedom and goes like, but at the same time, there are rules. There is a discipline to it. Professionality is when the two are combined. If we go back to soccer, the best soccer player, I'm going to say football because we're in Europe. The best football players love it. I mean, I'm not talking about Messi that used to puke because of the stress, that this is a whole other thing, right? But most of them, when they play, they love it, and at the same time they're doing it in the most professional level. So I think this is the ultimate place to be.
So let's go to my beautiful background here in this library that I'm clearly in.
Golden library.
Yeah, this golden beautiful library. I've chosen this background because our topic today is the glass ceiling of improv. So we all know the concept of a glass ceiling, and I think as well, ladies, we throw that term around oftentimes in a corporate setting. It happens as a conversation piece in terms of career progression. What does it mean for you in terms of improv?
I don't mean it in a career-driven kind of, I'm just talking about the infinite development that this craft has from the way I experience it by now. That's like, there is no glass ceiling in the terms that it expands as you walk in that plantage orchard and you take a walk there. And it just grows the more you walk in it. It's not like a limited area, right? It's just like the further you go, the bigger it will get. And in that sense, I mean that the discoveries and the ways to enjoy it and the amount of possibilities that this craft has in terms of what we could do on stage and even off stage right now. I mean, it's endless. How much can you listen? All these things that we talk about. How much can you yes end? And when do you not yes end? And what happens then? It's like, wow, it's infinite.
The term glass ceiling would usually for people mean that you don't realize that you've reached the top. You get to this invisible ceiling and you go, hang on a minute, there's no progression for me now. There's no way for me to keep growing. And I didn't realize I was going to hit this. But what I'm hearing you say for you is it's almost like a bubble ceiling or something. So you define how high the ceiling is. You define where it is and its limitations with your own choices and how you shift and change within the art form.
Yeah, but that is not to say that every once in a while we all meet the glass ceiling. Like every once in a while. I mean, for me, it's like I think about it more like the circle. And sometimes when I'm in the bottom, it's like where I hit maybe it's a floor, it's a ceiling floor. Yeah, it's a floor made of glass. And so and so every once in a while you go like, oh shit, no, that's it. That's it. I've lost it, or I'm stuck, or I'll never be as good, or it bores me, or I'm uninspired. I have no idea where else I can take it. But then you come out of it, and sometimes it can take a while. This is the scary shit about it. But you always like kick, and then you realize, oh no. My brain thought that I reached the limit. My ego, whatever, thought that we've reached a ceiling, but no.
Yeah. If you're bumping against the side of the ceiling or the floor ceiling, if you are doing that, then it means that you're not maybe tapped in and zeroed in on where it is that you need to go. Talk to me about that, about what that means for you, about this idea of tapping into a frequency.
Yeah, I don't mean that if you don't hit the frequency, I don't mean it in a judgmental way. You did not hit the frequency, you must be doing something wrong, because I think a lot of things are like that, but especially in improv, the more we push ourselves to do things right, the worse they get. Every show that I've done, scripted show, by the time I really mastered the show and could just flow into the show and do the show and not having to, sweat over it, the minimum effort that I need, the effortless effort for the show to be good, I'm talking about scripted, there's always this period of time between it starts and a few, weeks or maybe months where you go like, this is the show. This is the frequency of the show. When I come to the show, I kind of like need to balance on this, and then I'm there, and then I could just go. With improv, it's a little bit more tricky because improv has different shows, different rhythms, different frequencies. But what I love in an ideal world, when I'm on the top of my shit and I'm like, I'm like in the circle, I'm on top, is where the show is not a different part of the life. It's not like I go to the theater and then I have to put myself in a position and to do the crazy warm-ups that we do when we were young. Zip, zap, zap, like, my God, relax. Like, there's no a zone that I need to go on to in order to do a good show and be in the flow. It's just like, I wake up in the morning, I go to do some admin, I go to the fucking, I go to the theater, I do a show, I go out, I have a beer, going home, I am the flow, if you like it, or I am the frequency. The show is just like a part of who you are at that day, with a spotlight on for a second, a little bit more intense, but not different. It's not like the improv flow is there and I'm here. How do I find my way to be in the right mood to do the show?
How often do you improvise? Are you improvising in a show or I guess a workshop, but how often are you doing improv?
Sort of a once a week and sometimes twice. Yeah.
For me, I think this frequency concept is probably to do with as well the cadence. How often the frequency that you can tap into is potentially related to the frequency with which you do improv. And I think if you are someone who's improvising once a month or, every 6 months, you probably need some more zip, zap, zop to get into it. But if you are doing it regularly, then it can become more of the flow of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. When it's fun, then it's fun with discipline. And then it's just what you do, right? I'm not saying you don't have to do warm-ups before show. That's not what I'm saying. Even the warm-up is already the flow. Of course, the more you do it, the better. But actually, I had a conversation once with Tim Orr from San Francisco, who is a wonderful improviser and teacher and a good friend. We have a show together. And I said, Tim, I don't want to do a lot of shows. I don't want to do like 3 shows a week or something like that, because sometimes I feel that it drains me. There's a big effort trying to be at your top of your creativity all the time.
Do you think that part of what is draining is the audience work and the engagement with them? Because in a perfect improv world, we have an audience who's really receptive. They're listening, they're along for the journey, and they are doing as much work as we are. They're yelling things out, they're with us, they're imagining. But that doesn't always happen. Do you think that part of it is about that interplay with the audience?
No, it's not about the audience, no. And in fact, my biggest wish would be to just do shows for people. I want normal people who go to see stand-up comedy to come see the improv that I or my friends do, because the fact that the show is improvised, it has to be a good show. It has to be a good comedy show with all the levels that comedy can present, right? It doesn't have to be like that. It could be like very deep, funny comedy, satire. And the people who sit there know that it's improvised and it's great, but it's not like, it was improvised, so it's all right. No, I want to do good shows that are also improvised. I want everybody to be able to enjoy it. Not everybody. Some people will never dig improv, and it's okay too.
It's interesting, this idea of the same audience being able to come to the theater as well as to an improv show, as well as to stand up. In theater, we have costumes and props, a whole set, but in improv, we don't. We should be able to entertain the same audience regardless of the medium. What do you think?
I think short forms could be entertaining for a lot of audiences. I think maybe when it comes to long form, perhaps then you need a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to, because again, I think if a show is good, a show is good. But I also have this little suspicion that for some audiences, if you go like, I'm going to improvise a one location, a Kammerspiel, what they call, like one location, one time frame, drama of a family. And it can be funny, it can be dramatic, it doesn't matter. But then maybe sometimes improvisation in this kind of forms needs the imagination of the audience. And maybe not all audiences like to imagine and work so hard. They want to be like, give it to me. And in improvisation, we go like, let's pretend a little bit together. Okay, let's make believe together. And for some, it might be like, what? No. It could be.
I'm going to totally shift gears now. Yoga. So let's go back to this idea of the frequency and tapping into something. You mentioned to me how improv can be similar to yoga. What does that mean to you?
First of all, I come up very spiritual in this conversation, like super holistic and everything that I talk, but I am a little bit, not spiritual, but I am a little bit like in awe. It's like, wow, it's infinite. So I like that. I think it's very similar to yoga in a few aspects. One is that they say about yoga that it's not the flexibility of the body, it's the flexibility of the mind. To do all those complicated postures, your brain goes like, what? I can't do that. But if you relax the brain and you take it one step at a time, you realize it's not as hard as your brain told you it was. And I think that half of the things that we do in improvisation is like, oh shit, I gotta do this. And everybody goes crazy, where you go like, hang on, breathe, listen, react. You'll be more fine than the pressure that you put on yourself. So I think this is very similar. It's just like be a little bit more flexible with the mind as to the task. And the second thing is that it's the same in yoga. It's like you could do the same asanas, the same postures over and over again, and you will always have a different relationship to the posture. You will always find new depths that you didn't find before. You will always be able to make it more profound or better. Then come one day, and something that you could do easily yesterday is completely undoable today because you're different today. The dynamic of it and the infinite possibilities of it, it's like you can always find more, expand, always.
It's a very good place to bring us to my last question for you. Inbal, if you have words of wisdom, what might they be? If you are speaking to the younger version of you or your peers or someone who's never done improv before, what do you want them to know? What are your words of wisdom?
Oh. If I fuck that up now, my words of wisdom are shit.
Big deal.
Maybe if I think about the younger version of me, I would definitely say slow down, not because I'm trying to make it more boring, but because you and the audience and your partner need more time to process what you've brought to the scene. So we think very fast as humans. Our thought is one of the fastest things in the universe. But when we put it on stage, when we actually start to use it in a scene, it needs to slow down much more because nobody can follow the speed of our thoughts. And we have to go like, and we can be very creative, very funny, very amazing. But there will be no moments if we're just going like, And the other thing is slow down and don't work so hard, because if you have this understanding that improvisation is what's happening between you and your partner at that moment, and all you actually need to do is to, okay, it's fine that here is like da-da-da, but then just relax and slow down and just react to what's happening. You don't have to invent everything in your head, to work so hard to like make a huge story now. No, it happens in the moment. And the moment happens when you listen and then you react, and then you slow down with your whatever it is that you thought you were going to do, and you give it place. That's already a lot. And I think it took me such a long time to understand that. The idea of just react, just come, and whatever happens, you'll be fine because you'll react.
I like it. Inbal, if people want to hire you, do corporate work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so Facebook, of course, it's Imbalori with an I in the end, and also have my website, inbalori.com with one L and an I in the end. But know that I'm a tough teacher.
Check.
I have this reputation now.
Yes, yeah, good. Yeah. We don't want that ruined now, do we?
It could get tough, but it's worth it. I mean, we're having a lot of fun, but we work. It's not a lovey-dovey session.
Noted. Hug your friends, have your granola, leave it at the door, come in ready to play, to work. Okay.
You want fame? Well, fame costs.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful to speak with you. And for people who are looking for you, you are Berlin-based at the moment, but you are an international person and can be found everywhere. Thank you all very much. My name is Lauren. This is Improving the World, and there will be more videos to come. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. So, did you love the video? If you did, please say kind and beautiful things down below and look for more Improving the World. Thanks.